Good evening, everyone, and warm welcome to you. We will be going live at precisely 5 p.m. We have about 13 minutes to go. I am quite happy to see a lot of you are proactive and you've joined in to the session early. I'm glad with that. Just be patient, another 13 minutes to go, and then we would be up and running. All right. As I put on the chat panel, I would request all of you to keep your audio on mute, which will help the panelists, get into the session properly. And whenever you have questions, please keep typing them into the chat panel, and we will pass the questions on. All right. So we will go live in precisely 12 minutes. I request the participants to keep your audio on mute.
कौन करता है?
अरे उसने शेयर कर
नहीं कुछ मत कर। में क्या है देखो, 11 ही पार्टिसिपेंट्स आए हैं।
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, everyone. Just give us another 5 minutes. We will start sharp at 5 o'clock. We are at 4:53. In precisely 7 minutes, we will start the session. I would request all the participants to be on mute to help us have a wonderful and streamlined session. And the panelists would be coming in, and we would also be having active question and answer round. So you can use the chat panel, keep dropping your questions, and we will be answering your questions as we go along. And looking forward to a very fruitful and a wonderful session. And I'm glad that a lot of you are proactive and have joined before time. Thank you so much. Just give us 5 more minutes and we would be ready to start. I would request all the participants to please mute yourself. We will be starting in precisely 3 minutes. Thank you. All right, participants, just bear with us a couple of more minutes and we are going to go live. We are absolutely glad. There's an absolutely positive, overwhelming response that we're getting. So we want to give, the platform to maximum number of participants. We are also live on Facebook. In case any of your friends or colleagues would like to see the session, it is being broadcasted on our Facebook page. I'll drop the link here in the chat panel. You can forward it to people who probably might not be able to make it to the session. They can join us on, YouTube. Right, so I stand corrected. We are live on our YouTube channel, and I will also be dropping the URL here for people who probably might not be able to make it to the Zoom meeting, can always view it live on the YouTube channel. And just bear with me, I'm dropping the link here for your friends, for your colleagues or family members, anyone who wishes to, at the comfort of your home, watch the session, they can do that. Right, so let's get on with it. We've given enough waiting to all the participants who've been eagerly waiting. I was absolutely happy and thrilled to see that people were already in the session by 4:30, right? So to begin with, the new National Education Policy, NEP 2020, there has been an immense amount of talk that is going on about the new education policy, right? There are a lot of people we are noticing who are, supporting it. A lot of people are debating about it. A lot of people are confused about it. And we realize that this is a very important point to look at the new education policy from an English teacher's perspective. Now, when I say an English teacher's perspective, we are not limiting the idea that only an English teacher would benefit from this workshop. Definitely not. We are trying to look at it from 4 kinds of perspectives. So the reason why I'm telling you about this is that I will introduce the panelists in the same way. So when I look at 4 perspectives, there are 4 people who are directly affected or involved when it comes to the new education policy. Number 1, we are looking at people who are in the industry of English as a second language, people who have been working as leaders in the ESL industry. How does the new education policy affect them? Now, if I look at the new education policy, the national education policy, how would an outsider who is living in probably another country, has a similar education policy in their country, how would they interpret it? So we have been able to bring in a panelist who is coming in from another country, Malta, which was also a colony, a British colony. So interestingly, how education has progressed there, and how are we looking at English and English as a second language in another country? So you will get an interesting perspective from there. We also wanted to bring in views from a principal, a person who is running a school. What would be their way of looking at the new education policy? And more than that, all of us, we want to know, how would a teacher perceive the new national education policy? So in a nutshell, we have 4 panelists with us today. Panelist number 1, Ms. Priyanka, who is someone who is a very, very passionate person when it comes to language acquisition. She is someone who pioneered an ESL cafe, which runs in Delhi, someone who has been working relentlessly when it comes to bridging the gap between communication and psychology. So her concepts are very, very interesting. When she's using the element of communication to overpower psychological problems. So she is someone who has done CELTA from Cambridge, someone who has been in the industry for quite a while. She is someone who, as I said, quite passionate, and someone who is willing to adapt to every new thing that is coming up. And she's been doing a wonderful job at that. So we have Priyanka with us. Then we have Josiane, who's from Malta, someone who I've been interacting with for quite a while. And when the new education policy came out, I was fascinated to know that how our education policy actually has a lot of elements which are similar to a country like Malta. So she would be coming in and bringing in her perspective when it comes to English language, and when we look at ESL, and when we look at a language teacher. Then we have with us Ms. Sunita, who is the founding principal of a premier school in Bangalore, someone who has been in the education industry for the last 24 years, someone who has seen the education industry evolve and mitigate and change in the last, you can say, 20 years. How would a principal of a premier school look at this new national education policy? So she's going to bring her views. And then we have Ms. Sumaira, who is someone who has been dedicatedly working with the IB and ESL community of students, someone who is at the forefront, at the trenches with the students. How would a teacher who has immense amount of experience perceive the education policy? So what we are trying to construct in this workshop is, we are trying to construct a system where all the people who are joining us are able to take away workable solutions and workable interpretations of the policy. So one thing I want to make very clear from the start is that we are absolutely open to your interpretations. In fact, we are wanting to know your point of view. The whole idea of a workshop is that it is interactive. So we would welcome your questions. And the national education policy is not something that can be covered in just 2 hours. So what's going to happen is, this is an introductory overview for 2 hours. There will be dedicated experts coming into the next sessions, where if you have specific questions, if you have questions about your employability, about your future in the industry, about upscaling, all these questions will be coming up in the next session. So just wanted to give you an overview that it will not be a session that can be finished in 2 hours. But yes, there are a lot of people involved now with the MyElsa team who want to talk about this. And I think it is important that we talk about it, and we clear the doubts. So we want to separate myths from facts. So you would find a lot of the factors that the panelists are going to talk about are going to be about myths versus facts, so that you can actually understand what is reality and what is not. Because there's a lot of speculation, of course, when you have social media. You would also get an amazing overview and understanding of how different people in the industry who are kind of linked together perceive change, right? And I personally would be bringing in questions like, if I was an English teacher now in this current scenario, and if I was told that till grade 5, students will be learning in any language, does that change my role as an English teacher? And how do we define a language teacher? That's another very important question that we will be repeating. So is an English teacher a language teacher? We all agree. But when it comes to, let's say, a Punjabi teacher or a Telugu teacher, should they also have the same quality control that we expect from an ESL teacher, right? So to bring the discussion forward, I'm going to invite Priyanka to take over, because she's someone who's pioneered herself into the ESL domain, because we want to start the discussion primarily focusing around how an ESL industry expert is looking at the national education policy. And I would welcome all of you to keep dropping your questions in the chat panel. As we move along, I will be posting your questions to the panelists, and I'm also there available with you to answer the questions. So let's get on with it. Priyanka, are you there?
Yeah. Hello, Karen.
Hi, Priyanka. So
Hello,
Priyanka,
everybody.
we are absolutely ready, eagerly waiting for your point of view and your perception on this hot and piping topic that has brought a lot of us together today. Over to you.
Okay, so hello everybody. I hope you all are coping with this pandemic, this lockdown, pretty well in your own ways. And first of all, before we get started with today's session, all about the new National Education Policy 2020, I would like to first get along well with you all so that you know whom you're talking to. And thank you so much, Karan, for such a wonderful and warm welcome and introduction. So people, I'm a Cambridge University certified communication skills trainer and ESL teacher. I have had experience for last 6.5 years with esteemed organizations like British Council, the Times of India, Hindustan Times, Macmillan Education, and then some corporates, government schools, and colleges in Delhi. With these organizations, I've had such an amazing opportunity to help people of all age groups fight and overcome their mind and speech problems. Speech problems means your communication skills, which is obviously must for all of us, whether we are entrepreneurs, we want a job, we want to study abroad, we want to get a good admission in a college, etc. Communication skills plus your psychology, the mindset that we have, the level of confidence that we should have. I basically deal with all of this with everybody, and my goal is to reach maximum people, children, educators, everybody, working professionals, even housewives I have with me, and I want to help as many people as I can. Thank you so much for listening to my little introduction. So now let's get started with today's session. First of all, Karan, I'd like to share something, on screen. So can I share the
Yeah,
screen, please?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'll just hang on. You're the host, and you should be able to.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
You can? Are you able to do it now?
Yes. 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 I can
Okay,
do that.
good.
Okay. I'm sorry. I've got a hold of it. Okay. So as we all know, in today's session, we're going to talk about what is new NEP 2020. I know most of you already know about it. Am I audible, Karan?
Absolutely clear, Priyanka. Go
All
ahead.
right, thank you. So basically, first, since I'm the first one to start the session, I'd like to keep it very clear with those who have no huge idea about this entire NEP 2020. So basically, this new national education policy is the whole new system introduced by the Indian government, and the union, so it has been already been, it's not implemented yet, but it is getting implemented very soon, and it will stay for the next 20 years. Can you believe it? Like, we have been following a certain education system for such a long time, and now we're going to be following another entire new policy. So now in this national education policy, we have some policies that I've come across that I would like to share. So, for example, the one policy that I've come across was, sorry, I just don't have it. It's running, just a minute. Okay. All right. So yeah, three language formula, you all must be knowing about it. The three language formula basically means that we are going to teach our children three languages in schools. One would be definitely English. One would be any classical language like Sanskrit that we used to study in our schools. And one language would be the regional language. The state is going to decide, the students are going to decide, or maybe the government is going to decide which language are they going to teach their children. So the medium of instruction is also going to be in the regional language only. This is a task because this has been said that only for until 5th grade or 8th grade probably, children will be given instruction in their regional language. And now I'm going to talk about what are my views on this and how can I help you with some of the solutions according to my experience and understanding of this entire policy. The next policy that I really found interesting was bilingual textbooks. This means that the textbooks that we study and our children study, students study, will be in both the languages, like the regional language as well as English. So this was about these three policies that I have come across. So basically, I am going to talk about and throw some light on instructions being given in the regional language until class 5th or 8th. Now, the problems with the solution with the students are, my students are panicking these days, ma'am, how are we going to cope after 5th grade? Like until 5th we will be given instructions in say any language like Bengali or Punjabi or Marathi or our regional language, and then suddenly after 5th grade we'll be back to English language. Like how are we going to cope with this? And then we are going to talk about another problem, which is like how will it affect them globally, and then will it affect their communication skills in the longer run, like globally, maybe when tomorrow they opt for some international examination, or they want to go for IELTS, they want to get a job abroad, or maybe in India, how are they going to cope with communication skills? Then there are some questions in teachers as well. Like, for example, how will they speak many languages? You know, like if I'm a teacher and I'm asked to teach, my subject in Bengali, then Gujarati, because see, in India, uh, we have a diversified structure when it comes to culture, languages, the entire background that we have, the way we are, raised. Then we have rural areas, we have urban areas. So we have a plethora of, everything in India. India is not a country where there are only two languages, one Hindi and one English. In one classroom, there are children who speak Bengali, Gujarati, Marathi, Punjabi, every language. So the teachers are really confused and panicking. How are they going to speak all the languages to teach and instruct their children? Then the next question is, how will they cope with this new NEP 2020, and will it affect their employability? Then I'm going to discuss about how it is going to affect the schools. So if you are a school, I have my own school. So now, how am I going to manage diverse languages? How am I going to make sure that all the students in my school are getting good amount of education, instructions, everything as per the rules, obviously, in their language? And how am I going to divide the sections according to that? And then how can I train my teachers for that? Will I be able to appoint so many teachers for different languages? How is it going to affect me as an educator, as a school? And then I'm going to also talk about the solutions. That's the main part. Now, first of all, let's come to this thing that obviously bilingual or call it multilingual language. So we definitely don't understand right now that how are we going to cope with this entire thing? Because in one classroom, if there are students with different languages and regions, for me the solution would be, as an educator, as a school, as a teacher or a principal, that the way our education system has been divided into sections from A to F, like A, B, C, D, E, F. Science section different, then we have commerce section, we have arts section, inside section also we have biology, we have physics, and then without, so you understand. I think that if we, follow this kind of a system, new system, and all the policies of implementing instructions in the native language or in the regional language. This is the only solution that I can think of, that if we divide the sections into different regions, like for example, all the children who need instructions in Gujarati language, I can make them sit in one section. So I can divide another section for Haryanvi students in that. That will have another very huge impact on the entire scenario, because that will obviously divide us on the basis of regions, on the basis of language, on the basis of our culture, and that can also bring us all together by, in my particular region. But for the teachers, definitely the burden will fail. How? Because one teacher does not need to teach all the instructions, all the languages. That teacher will only be giving instruction in one particular language. Like a biology teacher does not go and teach in all the 6 sections, rather, she only teaches one section, right? So according to that expertise of every teacher, we can probably do this. This is one solution that I thought of. Second was for the students. Obviously, students are wondering and panicking how are they going to cope with this after 5th grade or 8th grade. There, I believe that as a psychology student, as a psychology, I hold a master's degree in psychology. So there we study about the cognitive understanding, the cognitive power of children. And believe me, young children definitely have good cognitive power where they can remember, store information, languages, multiple languages for a long term. However, there is also this problem that today, in today's scenario, we have been telling our children and we have been raising our children in a complete English atmosphere. You will obviously agree with me, like I have a niece, so we kind of create an atmosphere around her where she listens to English, she watches English shows, English cartoons, she speaks English. So the first language that she responds in is obviously English because we are a growing and developing country. Now, because of this new policy, am I going to tell her that at home you are speaking in English, and then when you step out and you go to your school, your instructions are going to be in some other language, and we don't even know which language. So that is a very big challenge here. One positive thing is that the child will be able to learn 3-4 languages altogether. And second, that obviously the student will become sharper and more confident because that child will know more languages. So the problem here is that how are they going to cope after 5th grade or 8th grade? There, my solution is that we as, because the government schools have to follow this system, this new policy, NEP policy 2020. They are, for them it is mandatory, but I don't think it is mandatory for private and for IB schools, for Cambridge schools, because as a Cambridge University certified trainer and an English trainer, I don't think as an ESL teacher I can use any other language to demonstrate what I want to demonstrate in my classes. I can use props, I can use several other things. So here, when you want to follow this and you have to, and you're forced to follow this structure, what you can do is you can somehow create some atmosphere for your children, for your students, where they are speaking English also. And for the children to, understand that, see, for you it is difficult, but then you have to understand that if some rule has been implemented, we have been developing so gracefully that we have always adapted to changes, and many changes are going to occur even now since India is getting, and the world is getting more digital.
Priyanka, excellent. Priyanka, can I interrupt?
Yeah.
You're right on the point, about adaptation and
Yes.
as a country, how we adapt. There's a couple of interesting questions I wanted to open to the panel.
Oh, sure.
Now, Dr. Preeti Bala is asking a very pragmatic and a very realistic question that, will there be enough teachers to teach vernacular? Like, I mean, for example, I completely resonate with what she's saying. Now, for example, let's say I had an initial question. So if I'm going to promote each language as a language of instruction equally, let's say as a school, if I'm a state-owned school, or will I have the same volume and quality of language teachers? When I say language, let's forget English for a second. Any language, let's say Marathi, Punjabi, Tamil, will I invest equally in these teachers to bring them up to par and up to speed with my, let's say, regular teachers? Because now that I'm opening up the idea that I'm promoting, I'm a multilingual country, I'm promoting multilingualism, the government is supporting me, which is excellent. So with this support, does this put more pressure on a school where they have to now invest more into quality language teachers for each subject? Or does it even give an opportunity for language teachers to now bring out their profiles and CVs and say, hang on, I am excellent, not just in speaking Marathi, but excellent in teaching Marathi. So my question is still there, that if I'm an English, like if I was born in the UK, right? And does that make me a good British English teacher? No, right? So as you said, as an ESL teacher, we go through this rigorous process of training and we go through this pedagogy, right? Would that rigorous process be applied to every single language teacher coming into the system? right? And this is a question which is
किसको
open
बोल
to
रहे
any
हो?
panelist. Sunita ma'am, Sumaira, anyone who would like to take the question, because this is a very
इंग्लिश टीचर के बारे में
right. Anyone would like to take the question?
So I think for that we should start learning, because that was my next
Sure.
point, that if we are getting into this,
पढ़े इंग्लिश टीचर के बारे में नौकरी इंग्लिश टीचर का खतरा में जरा पढ़ ले एक बार
we have to start
Man,
learning.
नौकरी खतरे में है.
Guys, can you please turn off your
on mute? All the participants, आपकी नौकरी हम बचाएंगे, पर आप म्यूट कर लीजिए. Thank you. Go on. Yeah, just unmute yourself, Priyanka. You've gone on mute. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, so the question was
Can you hear me?
quite valid, right? So when we were looking, my answer to that question when I was looking at it is, this is again to all the panelists, is that if I am investing as a school, if I am ready to say that I am going to take each language equally, then I as a school or as a governing body, even if I'm private or public, I need to support each language teacher. It means if I say that, yes, Priyanka, you have CELTA, right? So that gives you a benchmark. There should be a benchmark equivalent to something like CELTA for any teacher, because see, technically, let's say my native language is Hindi, let's say that's what we say, right? But that does not mean that I'm good in Hindi. Somebody has to teach me with the same standards. So if we are exposing multilingual elements of curriculum, then we need to expose such teachers out. I just hope that through this national education policy, we are able to bring out these kind of teachers. Priyanka, can I pause you there?
I think that will definitely affect our GDP as a whole,
Yeah.
on a global level.
I wanted to, Priyanka, I wanted to bring in Josie for her.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, because I know that she will look at it from a different person. So to all the participants, we have Josie, who's working with English in Malta. And she's someone who's connected with all of us. And, there's a wonderful perspective that we would all understand and learn from someone who's looking at it from an outside perspective. So over to you, Josie, if you're here.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Karan. Just to answer your earlier question, I don't think teachers can be expected to know all languages, be proficient in all languages, be able to teach all languages. But maybe something to think about is that they are familiar and trained in something like, for example, CLIL, which will allow them to teach any subject in any language, not because they're proficient in it, but because they can scaffold what is happening in both the subject and the language. And so learners will be actually learning both simultaneously. So that's maybe something that can be thought about.
Yeah.
And also, where I come from, we have 2 official languages. And so we have to, from a very young age, learn in 2 languages. It can be a little bit confusing on the young learners, but they overcome these issues very, very quickly. And we find that by the time they're 5 years old or so, they can speak both languages almost equally well, even if it's not the language that is being spoken at home. But if they get enough exposure to the language in the right way, then I think it should pose minimal problems.
Absolutely. I kind of understand what you're saying, because we had a conversation about this yesterday, and I was quite fascinated with the story that you said that in Malta, Maltese and English are 2 languages which are sort of, going along with each other. So
yeah.
I would love if you could share it with the participants, that anecdotal story, because that is something that relates to even our country a lot. Because every one of us, all the way speaking one language right now, but there would always be another language which influences us in every form and way, right?
Yeah. So, for example, if I take myself into consideration, I come from a Maltese-speaking family, so everybody at home and around me always spoke to me in Maltese. Yet my parents decided to send me to an English-speaking school. So can you imagine the shock? This little 5-year-old who can't understand anything that's being told to her. But as a kid, as children, we absorb things very quickly. We internalize things very quickly. And yeah, there were a few issues where I couldn't kind of fully understand what's going on around me. But because I was forced into the situation, I found my own way of how to overcome these issues. And I think of all the languages I learned, and I learned about 4 languages, English is the one I learned best, simply because I was put in a situation where I was exposed to the language. And if I think about my own kids, and I did speak to them in English, when they were young. However, with my daughter, for example, she was being looked after by someone who couldn't speak English. So she had me saying things in English to her, and she had somebody else who she spent a lot of time with, in fact, most of her time with, speaking to her in Maltese. What I had found intriguing at the time is the fact that although she could speak to the other person in Maltese, if I tried to speak to her in Maltese, she would block. And I think that's because kids associate sounds that come from a person. And so when I changed from me, she wouldn't understand me. Yet, by the time she was 5 years old, she could go from one to the other and converse with anybody in any language. So I think more than worrying about, is this going to help them? Is this going to help them learn? I think what should be enforced is that some kind of standards and conformity. So same languages from same teachers, so kids don't get confused in the process. But it's worked well for us. I would say 90% of our population speak both languages equally well. Of course, there will always be those who have another language as a second language because of the different generations. But my generation downwards, we all speak 2 languages with no problems. And what we've done also to help the system is, rather than different subjects taught in different languages by different teachers, we kind of divided the subjects at primary level, where half the subjects are taught in Maltese and the other half taught in English. And so they get equal exposure. And by the time they go to, secondary school, which is then where there's more of one than the other, kids are ready to be taught and instructed in that particular language.
Yeah,
Sir, I would like to add a point. Can I?
Yes, please, go on.
Okay.
Go on.
Am I audible to all?
Yes, to all the panel, to all the participants, this is Ms. Sumaira, one of our other panelists. So as you can see, we are keeping the conversation very organic. It is going to be based on your questions. The panelists, of course, have prepared elements and solutions, which of course they will be bringing forward. But we also want to keep it dynamic. Wherever we are seeing some very fascinating and relevant questions, I'm going to bring those questions up to all of you guys who are in the panel, and you can always choose to answer any question that you wish. So go on, Sumaira.
Yes, thank you, sir. What I found from this policy that I would like to share, many of them I saw are very skeptical once they have heard about the medium of instruction will be the home language or regional language. I felt, first of all, from the children's point of view, learning multiple language is always an added advantage. And children can really adapt to the multilingualism. That is one side, to be kept on the other side. For the teachers, I have seen, if you see, even we, even a portion of India where we are residing, we all know the language of the state where we are residing. Even if you see, I'm from West Bengal, but I know many non-Bengalis, many Punjabis, they're speaking Bengali so fluently. That is the point. I know many Tamils, many Punjabis residing in Maharashtra speaking Marathi fluently. So when it comes to the medium of instruction, I don't think any teacher needs to feel threatened unless there is a transfer in case of government schools, of course, from one state to another, where the teacher is completely oblivion of the new language. Otherwise, I don't feel that there will be a language barrier for any teacher.
That's an excellent point that you brought, Sumaira, because I think we all kind of resonate with the fact that as a country, multilingual elements are not new to us. It's not that we are telling you learn Marathi or learn Gujarati. As a country, I mean, I'll give you an anecdotal quick example. Now, any kid who has had the opportunity of traveling into different parts of the country, let's say your father was in the military or Air Force. So what happens to such a kid is that you end up picking up different cultures and languages by default, because that's the beauty of our country, right? So I completely understand with the fact that if we look at multilingual element from a positive perspective, there's a lot of cultural and language learning which can be joined together, right? But yeah, there is a question, Sumaira, that came in the group, which was absolutely on the point where you said that what if someone has to teach outside their own state, right? So let's say somebody gets transferred, right? As you said, from Tamil Nadu to West Bengal, or from Tamil Nadu to Punjab. So then would they be given some kind of a course by the government in the language, or would the medium of instruction then by default go to English, because that becomes the common core? What do you guys think about it? I mean, this is a question which is open to all the participants. You can type it out, and also to the panelists. Sunita ma'am, we haven't heard from you yet. So let's just bring in some of your points, because you had some very interesting interpretations of the policy. And then I'll bring back Priyanka with her points.
Good evening, everyone. What I see is in this national education policy is the language, which is the main focus of this policy. Everybody will be having their own home language and mother tongue, and the government is expecting, along with knowing English, you should be very much familiar with the home language. That is, suppose somebody is there in Delhi, the mother tongue may be Punjabi, but the home language is Hindi. So the teacher must be aware how to translate or how to simplify the content into their home language. This is the main intention of introducing home language. I do believe that.
Absolutely makes sense. I understand. I mean, I hope that makes sense to us all. Priyanka, I want to come back to you. I'm sorry I had to cut you short because there were some interesting questions coming in. So I wanted the people, to get into the conversation, because I think that becomes more invigorating and passionate for all of us, because when people are interacting, we as panelists feel more alive. So you were talking about something, Priyanka. Let's finish that, and then I'll bring in Josie with her presentation about what she wanted to talk about.
So Karan, definitely thank you so much for this little break, because even I'm a kind of person who prefers real talk. And sharing PPTs and all of that is really not my cup of tea, because I was doing that in front of so many people out here on screen. So see, pandemic has made us do so much. So guys, here my point is regarding textbooks getting bilingual. This is one thing that I've come across, and yesterday I think Karan and I were discussing on this as well.
Yeah.
Now, I remember the time when I was in school, right? We had to pay heavy penalties on every line spoken in Hindi or our mother language. So we were forced and bound to speak in English language only. Obviously, that made us better communications. That enables us now to communicate in a much better way on a very big scale, global scale. I agree that government has brought this entire system to put us all together, to bring us all together and all the languages together in India. However, we should never forget the fact that in India, we do not have just one or two languages. We have so many languages all together. For example, as Josian said, in Malta, probably they have one language, right? So majority of them are speaking one language. But in India, the case is not like this. It is very different and difficult for us all to manage and adapt this entire system. So here I would say, if textbooks are getting bilingual in two languages, how is government going to decide which language? Today we have CBSE. In CBSE board, we all are studying the exact same thing. but now it is going to be bilingual. So like it's going to be in Sanskrit and English, or is it going to be Bengali and English, or is it going to be what, like Punjabi and English? So I think that, and I certainly believe that it is going to be a bit complicated for all of us. But for children, as they have a great ability to pick up multiple languages and everything very nicely, so I think for them it is going to be a great change. But on a global scale, that's my personal concern. I don't think it is going to be worth having it. That's my personal concern about it. So I really believe that you should try to keep your children in touch with English language no matter what, because ultimately they are going to jump out and fight the real world. You see? So then we need English language. That's my point, Karan.
Yeah, no, I got it. I got it. So you're saying that there should be a system where you want to create an equilibrium that, yes, promote multilingual elements, make it realistic, but do not let go of the language, which is the common, let's say, language of communication for the world, because eventually you're saying they're going to face the world, right?
Yes.
Fair enough. Got it. So we will open up more questions. Josie, I was fascinated by certain points that we spoke about. If you remember that all the people here in the call would also love to know that Malta was also a British colony, just like India. So when I was discussing with her about the education history of the last 70, 80, 90 years, I found a lot of similarities, because Malta has gone through a certain similar evolution when it comes to culture and language. And I mean, exactly, the first language is Maltese, right? But then English is kind of there with it.
Well, it depends. Malta's a small island, but still there are these language differences. So we've got people living in the center who are mainly English spoken. People who live in the north kind of go from one to the other as they deem fit. People in the south speak only Maltese, yet our books are in English when it comes to higher education. So from a very young age, we need to master the English language and master also Maltese, because if we master only English, then we've got no chance of going to college, because we need a Maltese qualification for that. So kids from a young age have to master both languages equally well in order to further their education, in order to become employable. So we've kind of come up with a system that helps them, that paves the way to master both. It works well for us, yet there will always be those kids who will not master both equally well, but well enough to allow them to further their studies, or, go beyond Malta. As Priyanka said, kids live in a global world, so they need English as a means of communication. Otherwise, their world becomes very small. And so whatever the choice is, whichever is the language of instruction, English needs to be there in an equal way.
I completely understand, because, yeah, I mean, the question again comes to all the panelists and also people here, is that if I do get a balance of the regional language, see, the beauty of language is that it cannot work without culture. There's so much of depth that goes when we learn language. We all who are language teachers understand that teaching language is just not about the curriculum or the pedagogy. There's a lot of culture and a lot of depth that goes, right? So in India, we have this one small issue, that most of us, right from birth, even though we are speaking English, we have a problem called MTI, where there's a mother tongue influence. Now, the mother tongue influence would change based on which state and city you're in, right? So we have been trying, apparently, for the last 20 odd years to nullify MTI, so that by the time our kids graduate, they can think in English, speak in English, and get good jobs, right? That was the motto. Now, if I confuse the child saying that, hang on, you are in grade 1 and till grade 5, you can think in Bengali, and then you have an English separate subject. Do you think, I mean, this is a question for everyone, do you think that by the time the kid graduates or leaves school, would that kid be employable in the global market? Because would the balance of thinking in another language and then interpreting and speaking English, we're trying to nullify it as a society, but would this help, or would this actually be a paradox? because this is something that I've been thinking about. Every language school that you go to in India, they will always tell you, kill the MTI, stop thinking in this language, get your thinking into English. That's how you will start behaving, blah, blah, blah. You'll get your accent, you'll get your pronunciation. But then if the government is telling you, hang on, I want you to think in both the languages, because I don't want you to lose the beauty of the language. That's one part. I don't want you to lose the culture of the language. That's second part. Will then my government support me when I am looking for jobs? Because what has happened is that as a person, I've developed a personality where I've picked beauties of, let's say, 2-3 different languages. But the challenge is that I'm still thinking in Bengali and speaking in English. So my MTI problem didn't go. Will that happen? It's just an open-ended question to anyone, right? And of course, people are talking about it. And again, it depends on the job opportunities, as Tanishq is saying. But again, look at the situation now. We are in a digital world, which is shrunken. Like we used to say, we were in a global world, right? So because of the pandemic, we're all stuck on the screen. So even our global world has become much more smaller. So now if someone is genuinely good, can be seen through. If someone is genuinely bad, can be seen through, because we don't have filters anymore, right? So any kid who graduates would need to face the world. Will that kid still get quality jobs is what I'm worried about, right? I'm looking at that picture. Sunita ma'am, what
I would like to take this question. What I see is the government is concentrating on the government schools and state board schools, where their level is somewhere the curriculum aspects or language aspects, it's not that rich. So they just want to bring in the uniformity with all the boards. That is the reason this new educational policy has been brought in. And they are not telling that child should not learn English or think in English. They are absolutely allowed to think and talk in English, and all those permissions are available. Only thing is, the wherever the child is unable to understand in English, for that community or for that particular region, this facilitating they are facilitating with the other language, that is home language. So the government, when we look at the vision and all, the government wants to put India on the global map, on the forefront. So when the government is thinking like that, definitely English has to go hand in hand, as it is international language, global language. So I think it is most probably it is confused with the social media, which has been projected like that. Maybe because of that, that wrong interpretation is there. What government has proposed, absolutely fantastic. They are not stopping the children to go for English language.
Absolutely, ma'am. I understand your point, and you're saying that you're saying there's a misinterpretation from the social media, and which has impacted all our minds. I completely understand, because we are perceptive, right? So that could be one angle. I would welcome you to share your presentation now, because since we've already started talking on this topic, and I know you have a comprehensive plan to show the people. Why don't we get on with that presentation, and then we'll move on to the next panelist.
Kindly bear with me. It is a little bit lengthy, and I would like to give a bird view of NEP through this presentation.
Okay, sure.
Can you please allow me to? Yeah.
Yeah.
स्क्रीन शेयरिंग करेंगे आंटी से, आंटी भी स्क्रीन शेयर करेगी अपनी।
This is the Perspective National Education Policy 2020 perspectives. The objective of this particular NEP is education is human potential, developing an equitable and just society for national development. If we have to concise this, nation develops full human potential through education. Now, what is the motto of this national education policy? By providing universal quality education to the Indian young population, which is highest in the world, India wants to be on the forefront, and this will determine the future of our country. This is what I was highlighting. Next, when we talk about SDG 4, that is Sustainable Development Goal 4, which was adapted in 2015, it seeks ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all by 2030. Now, what is the need of it? Most of the schools are implementing lifelong learning opportunities. But what is the need of it? Just to maintain the uniformity, wherever there is no access for this, there the uniformity has to be maintained. That's the reason this national education policy has been brought in. The vision is to, the aim must be for India to have an education system by 2040 that is second to none, with equitable access to the highest quality education for all learners, regardless of social and economic background. Global knowledge superpower, this is what they want to achieve. So when the government is eyeing on global knowledge superpower, definitely English is much needed. They are nowhere saying that English is not required. So moving to the next slide. This is the format we had till this session. We'll be having this format where pre-KG or kindergarten was nowhere in the structure. It was not in the structure umbrella. It was only from grade 1 it was considered, and then +2 was considered. But the reform structure is 5 years, which is fundamental, where a lot of things will be covered. I'll be moving ahead with that. And then with 3 years for grade 3 to 5, and then next 3 years for 6 to 8, and the next 4 years for grade 9 to 12. So when we look at this early education policy, when we talk about this, it is 85% of the child brain develops at that age of 6. Before the age of 6, it is developed. We are all aware of it. And now that has to be understood and implemented. What is the outcome the government is expecting from the educationist? It is, these are some of the points. I'm not going in detail of it. These are some of the outcomes they are expecting. If somebody wants to take screenshot, they can take. Because I'll not be concentrating much on that. These are the points they will be expecting from the educationist or all the stakeholders. And coming to ECCE, it consists of 5 years. It is solid 5 years where the maximum development of the child is seen. That's the reason it should be multifaceted, multi-level, play-based, activity-based, inquiry-based. All these things will be covered. And whatever the points have been mentioned here, many schools are doing at kindergarten level. But again, to bring in this uniformity, it has to be implemented vigorously. The planning and implementation of early childhood care and education curriculum will be carried out jointly by the ministries of HRD, Women and Child Development, Health, Family Welfare, and Tribal Affairs. So earlier, the kindergarten was not monitored. Whoever wanted to run preschool, they were doing so. Now the things will change for better, and there will be monitoring body that will be guiding, enforcing, and see to that if somebody is not following, that will be cancelled. Their affiliation will be cancelled. Next, the preparatory grade, it is from grade 3 to 5 age bracket in 8 to 11. Primarily, it is they are preparing the child for the next level. It is mostly play-based and less of content and more of conceptual understanding. And for this, the minimum qualification is required. If they are not having that basic qualification, definitely they will be empowered by giving online classes in the evening hours. And those who are working in Anganwadi, If they are having +2, they will be attaining 6-month certification. If they are having only 10th grade, then definitely they will be given 1-year diploma. They have to undergo basic literacy, how to teach literacy, numeracy, and other relevant aspects of kindergarten. The focus will be on foundation, literacy, and numeracy. This is the main focus for foundation and preparatory level. By the time they attain 3rd grade, or when they reach 8 years, they should be proficiency. They should have proficiency in literacy and numeracy. And as we are talking about employment, keeping that into the central focal point, these critical thinking and other things should be learned by the children. It is more of learning how to learn. Until now, there was a road learning, even though it was restricted, still rote learning was there. Now it will be more focused on learning how to learn. As I said, it is less of content and more of critical thinking and how to solve the problems, which will be beneficial to move ahead for multidisciplinary, which is in the next level. More of experiential learning will be given importance. Experiential means all the 5 sense organs should be included, whether they are in the school or outside the school. If they are visiting the field trip also, the experiential learning will be given utmost importance. It has been observed that after some of the schools have implemented this has given good results, and this will be implemented. Even in our school, we experimented this. For Vanamahotsava, we included seed bombing or vegetable patch or vertical gardening, all these things, experiential learning we taught, and we took a lot of project based for each class, and it was implemented and good results were seen. And apart from this, the government is focusing on ethical and rational, compassionate, caring citizens, which will build a strong foundation for the more values. Coming to the next segment, it is middle 6th grade to 8th grade, the age between 11 to 14. Here, activities regarding coding will be given more importance, because today's children will be living in the world of artificial intelligence, data science, and other things. So for that, coding is a must. That's the reason in the previous stages, numeracy and literacy was given more importance, so that they are strong at that level. And then when they come to 6th grade, their coding is strong and they are second to none in our India. Yeah. Mathematics,
coding is
mathematics, astronomy, philosophy, all these things will be integrated. It has been taken our own age-old philosophies, which we had during
6th to 8th grade.
Our own Nalanda University and other universities. The insight has been taken from there. Like cheating, violence, plagiarism, littering, tolerance, with sacrifice, tolerance, diversity, they will be exposed to a number of issues, and they will be given the authority to think and act.
Astronomy,
don't do this.
Coding, astronomy, और ये सब अब ये लोग जो ये मैम की हुई है, ये लोग कमाने का टाइम आ गया लोगों का।
The current
पेरेंट्स चाहेगा चाहिए उसको, और इतना टीचिंग स्टाफ नहीं है।
Please keep yourself on mute so the panelists can talk. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Then all the students will be participating in 10-day bagless period, which is from 6th grade to 8th grade. In fact, in our school, we implemented no bag day from grade 1. They were not bringing bag on one particular day, and they were exposed to a lot of videos and questionnaires and visiting the certain places, and this has really changed their outlook. Coming to the last levels, that is secondary grade, grade 9 to 12, the age bracket is 14 to 18. There, the students will be having a lot of flexibility with regard to choice of subjects. Plethora of subjects will be available for them to select, and it will be more of holistic development. And No more physical education, arts and all will be extracurricular activities that will be integrated into the curricula, and we are not going to separate as curricular or extracurricular or co-curricular activities. All these mainstreams are brought in together, and students will be having the opportunity to select according to their choice and according to their future planning. The secondary stage, if I have to tell about this, if a student wants to go for engineering, maybe the student is very good at arts, so why not take one subject of arts and move ahead? That is the main reason it has been integrated in this way. And in the coming years, multidisciplinary objects will be of the focal point. That's the reason these subjects choice have been given. So as I was telling, multidisciplinary will be the focal point. All these pedagogical and curricular styles will be changed, and they will be learning in greater depth than in 6th grade. Innovative method to achieve these aims of greater flexibility and exposure to and enjoyment of a wider range of subjects. As I said, a lot of choices will be given to them. Along with this, contemporary subjects, because the students will be living in this era in the coming days. Artificial intelligence, it has already crept in. Design thinking, even this is one of the most interesting topic. We in our school also, we have one period for design thinking, and students are taking interest in that. Holistic health, organic living, environmental education, global citizenship, some of the skills which will be developed at school level. In all the stages, experiential learning is very, very important, and hands-on learning, art integrated, sports integrated education, storytelling, all these things will find its focal point. As I said in the beginning, the children's development of mind is very crucial between the age of 2 and 8. That's the reason multilingual benefit has been given. The students can learn multi-language, and their cognitive level will be increased. That's the reason this has been included. When it comes to 3-language formula, no language, this has to be taken into care. No language will be imposed on any state. So that means there is no pressure on any of the state or on the student or on the school to pursue particular language. The 3 languages learned by children will be the choice of states, regions, and of course, students themselves. So students are the center point here. According to their choice, they can select. So language will have its importance in the coming days. Language teachers, somewhere they were not given that importance in the beginning. Now they will have their upper hand. In particular, the students who wish to change the language, they have that flexibility. Earlier, the student who is studying in grade 8, if he has taken Sanskrit as first language, all the 3 years he was supposed to continue with the same language. Now the choice is there with the student. He can change as he wishes to. Maybe the child is not comfortable in that particular language. He has all the choice to change it according to his wish. Along with this, Indian languages like Sanskrit and other things will have its upper hand. Along with that, the foreign languages will also gain its momentum.
Right. Ma'am, can I pause you there for a second? It's been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for taking us through all the steps and right from the formative. And I just had a couple of questions that came in while you were presenting. I just thought I'll bring it out to you and to the panelists.
Sure.
There was one very important question that I wanted to ask now. It's a parent who says that we are also live on YouTube. So we had a question from a parent that So the fact that we give an option for the child to learn, let's say, in another language, parents, let's say, who are in a rural setting, in a remote area where English language is not something that is used, life for the parent becomes much more easier, because then they can help with the concept part of the learning, because they understand the concept in a certain language. So that would give them an added advantage to actually be an active participant in the students' learning, because English is not enforced as the common core language at home. That is something, would you all see that as a positive?
Moreover, what I'm seeing is this bilingual textbook has been brought in for the reason, suppose the teacher is explaining in English, certain concept is not understood by the child, and he can go back and revise and just refer that bilingual textbook and see to that whether his concept understanding is better or not. And definitely, if it is not understood, he can get back to the teacher and again clarify his doubt, either in English or in home language. All those opportunities will be given. Here, the focal point is student.
Understood. There are two questions. I'll bring the first one. I want to jump onto the same question to Josie. I have the same question for you. As an ESL person, if you are looking at, let's say, 3 languages, I'm looking at grade 1 to grade 5. So formative years, let's say from kindergarten, upper kindergarten to grade 5. Based on your perception, would you want to expose a child to a text or a learning system where there are exposures of languages? Do you think that is productive or counterproductive post 5th grade?
Unmute yourself, ma'am.
Is she? We lose.
Okay, that should be all right now. Everything has its benefits. Yes. So as Sunitha was saying, when they are being given instructions in one language, but have the opportunity to look into more detail at what they've understood or haven't understood in their own language, it's going to help them, because there will be some who will be struggling. However, having said that, as an ESL teacher, I get kids in my classrooms from across the globe, so I could have practically 6 or 7 different nationalities in my classroom. There is no way I can provide text that is in all those different languages, or that I can even teach in all those different languages, or in some way communicate with them. Yet, by the end of their stay here, by the end of the course they're following, even though my instruction is in English, and even though it is not a language that they are very familiar with, they're all speaking to each other and communicating together in English throughout the stay, because it's all about exposure. And also, if you have nothing to rely on, to me, the biggest disadvantage with having instruction in one language, but text in another language, which is your own, is that it makes you a little bit kind of lazy, because there's some things to rely on, so you don't have to put in that extra effort.
Show me that up. No, don't change. Go up. Go up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's advantages and disadvantages to both, yeah. But when using only one language, both as a matter of a language of instruction and text, they're going to have to make a bigger effort. And in making that effort, they're going to be able to, acquire the language a little bit more, I think.
Josie, correct me if I'm wrong, but does that make it similar to someone who's a tourist who has a book in 2 languages, and let's say I've come to Malta and I want to come and find your house. So I have a text in Maltese and I have in English. I understand English. So I have the benefit of using another language to understand the other language. So do you think that it might turn into a situation where I'm sort of saying, oh yeah, I understand this in language A, so I probably stick to language A because it's convenient. So I don't really need to challenge myself to learn the language B. But when there is a choice, when the choice goes and I have to only stick to that language, does that make my life harder as a student?
Okay, it's all about, it's a matter of character and personality as a student as well. That's why I said there's advantages in both. So yes, it could give me the opportunity to learn the other language I'm not so familiar with, because I can see what it's saying and I can try to put it together myself, which is a brilliant way of doing things. But it could also mean that I'll take the easy way out because I don't have the time to try and figure it out. There's other things I need to do, which might be more important, or I'm too much of a rush. So it's all a matter of character and personality. So yeah, for some, it could be a fantastic way. For others, it could be an easy way out. And so it's all in, or then also how much skills are being promoted within that learning context, and how much languages are being promoted, and rather than promoted, how aware the students are of the importance of knowing more than one language. And if they resonate with that, then it will work wonders. If they don't reason, or they don't have people around them making them aware of its importance, they're going to kind of go the other way.
Right.
Which is what they normally do in any other subject anyway, not just for languages.
I want to bring Priyanka into the discussion. I have one more question for all the people here. One thing that I find very fascinating with the new national education policy is that we are stressing a lot on holistic education. Education is now actually looked at from an experiential point of view, right? So what international boards like IGCSE or IB have been professing about or talking about for years, the government says, hang on, yes, we believe in what you're saying. It makes sense to us. So finally, there is also a win. There is a win that the genuine student-centric education system is winning in India on every level. So that's a big win. But I have a question here. So if I can understand if I develop an analytical way of thinking, and I can actually increase my brain size the way I think, but if my thinking is complacent, or if my thinking is given a direction of thinking in another language, so I pick up analytical skills, I become more brainy, I become more cognizant, but my expression has been balanced in other languages. That means I'm thinking analytically, but not in English. Now, by the time I finish 12th grade and I move to university or to a placement, I have gathered a positive, that is analytical thinking. I am a well-rounded student. Will that still compromise the fact that no amount of analytical thinking can be successful unless you can communicate that analytical thinking, right? So no matter what I have in my brain, if the other person can only understand English or is looking at communication skills to bring out coding. So I had brought a question last time also that it's great that the government is supporting coding, but can you code without communication? I mean, if I am excellent in analytical skills, in IT skills, or do I still need to have my people skills? Do I need to still have my communication skills to get employability, to, let's say, climb the ladder, to be more visible to the world? So the problem is, we've been talking about the English language. We've been using in India. Ironically, India was a colony, right? So we were under the British Raj for so many years. Then we welcomed the IGCSE, the IB curriculum, and so many schools are making money because of it. So now we are saying that we have been using your curriculum for the last 20 years, and we've been saying English is the first language. 60% of the schools in India say English is the first language. Now you're saying that I will promote multilingualism. So if you're promoting multilingualism, then what happens to the last 20 years? Because for the last 20 years, I have been seeing the system says English is the language. This is your way forward. This is how you make your bread and butter. So now I'm saying, hang on, I want you to have a balance between multilingualism and I want you to somehow use English. So one good thing, yes, the government is looking at analytical thinking and is looking at assessment also from student-centric way. But then I still feel, it's just my perception, there is an element of political will where probably governments, local governments and central governments are saying we want to diminish our language. But I don't know if they're thinking long-term that will they support the kid when the placements happen, when the kid is sitting for an interview in front of a person. Will that help that particular child bring out that analytical personality in a common way of communication, which is English, right? So I had Priyanka wanting to come in. Priyanka, are you still here?
Yeah.
I think Priyanka ran away.
Exactly, Karan. I am here. Where will
Okay.
Yeah.
Priyanka, yeah, please come in.
Yeah, amazing point you mentioned, Karan. Even I share the same point of view here. That no doubt the new curriculum is definitely trying to include basic arts, crafts, humanities and sports, so much of literature and everything, along with science, maths, and social studies. This they are doing with an aim to help students become more easily critically. They should become better thinkers and problem solvers, etc. But now my concern is that as a trainer, as a teacher, students come to me and they are like from Haryana or from UP board or from any board apart from CBS. Their problem of concern is that, ma'am, I know my language, I know the skills, and they are super talented, Karan. Trust me, they score 90s and above, and then they are like stuck while getting the job and things like that. Now their concern is that, ma'am, how can I improve my communication skills? Now I believe that if you are going to opt for abroad, obviously then also it becomes even more difficult for a child. Now I don't think this is really going to help us make our children and students more critically good thinkers and problem solvers, and also it is going to affect the tradings. As we know, not to mention, but China as a trading country is poorer than India. Now, if I teach my children only religious languages and Indian languages and not English that much, that like think in English and make English your first language, definitely how are they going to cope with other things? And from, like I said, they have to fight with the real world. They have to face the real world outside, not just in the boundary. So
I agree. I completely agree, Priyanka. So, see, what I'm saying is, there are a lot of questions coming
Can we answer for that question?
Sorry, please mute yourself. I completely agree with a lot of points that are coming in, that we should then give an opportunity to Indians that hang on. The government should support you till the point that hang on, I will make you sit next to you. There will be a translator who will talk to a British person in English, and you should have the confidence to speak in Hindi and give your interview, and you will get the job because of your skills, right? Let's say, will the government go in that direction? That's what I'm asking. Second, if the government does not go in that direction, then the student has to fend for himself or herself when they're facing the real world, so to speak. The irony of the real world is it measures quality directly proportional to communication, and communication is English. So quality, when I say, is not just quality of your language. That means all your credentials are weighed in the way you can present your credentials. So for the fact that for so many years that we've been presenting our credentials in English, if the government gives me the support and the confidence is, yes, I can support my credentials in any language, I will get a job, I would say this policy is excellent. But if the government doesn't follow through in that point, then I'm leaving the students in a space, and even the teachers, because teachers will be working around it. But employability is what I'm looking at. Will they get jobs, right? And another very important factor is that the divide, the digital divide or the communication divide between the rural and the urban India has always been because of language, right? When we talk about the psychological divide, children living in rural areas, why are they always having this problems that I cannot look up to a kid in Bombay or Delhi because I can't speak the same way, I don't have the same friends, the same culture. For the last 30 years, I've been seeing kids in rural India trying to match up with the kids in urban areas. Why? Because English is not just a language, it's a way of life, it's a culture. So if that culture the country has bought, I mean, on one side, the government is buying everything which supports that culture, which is, but on the other side, it says, no, in education, I want you to balance the culture. So where does that leave the child, right? So Sumaira, I want you to come in because all of us have been blabbering for quite a while, and I know you have a lot to say. So I would like you to take the stage and talk to us now, please.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. First of all, I would want to say, when I met Karan sir around 1.5 years back, sir, if you remember, I had a lot of grudges to talk about the Indian education system. And we were having just a casual chat, and I was talking a lot about it. Because, I'm sharing my journey from a teacher who was in the national curriculum, who went to the international curriculum and finally became an IB educator. I had a taste of both the curriculums. So like Personally, I would like to share some of the points that I was sharing with Karan sir at that time. I said, sir, our national curriculum is emphasizing too much on rote learning. If you see today, students are focusing too much on marks, too much on results.
We have stone unturned to make this event.
Sorry?
You can write your comments in the comment section, sir. I would request you not to disturb the panelists when they're talking. Please respect the decorum of the session. Write your comments in the comment section, please.
Okay, thank you. So I was just having a grudge with you know, regarding this too much focus on rote learning, too much focus on marks. All right. And I saw teachers preparing the same lesson plan and going on years after years with the same correction of the book schedule and implementing the same lesson plan. That's what I saw. Okay. As an English educator in the national curriculum, when my job role switched and I came to IB, you know, 3 to 4 things really fascinated me a lot. First of all, I saw that learning can happen in mother tongue as well. Because if we see countries like China, I've seen in Scandinavian countries, they don't put so much emphasis on the language of English. They just take it as a medium of instruction or communication on a global platform. But beside even the countries, some of the countries I've seen in Middle East also, they are using the lesson plan in their own mother tongue. So, you know, learning can take place beyond English. That is one thing we have to keep that in mind, because we are having a colonial mindset, you know, and having been under British rule for so many years, we have tend to put so much emphasis on the language English. So if a person is speaking English, we know he's highly educated, no matter how he is as a person. But today I prefer as a person who is just speaking English and who's a person who is thoroughly learned. So my concept has changed. Secondly, I have seen children learning through doing, which is not happening in our national curriculum. We give notes years after years to children to memorize and then write it on. What is happening in ICSE and CBSE, we know every 5 years questions we are repeating, every 5 years answers, books are available in the Bazaar notes, and everything they are getting it done. But it's not happening in the curriculum. And finally, what I saw, there was very less emphasis on the vocational education, which, you know, the government has brought in NEP. Now I'm connecting it with it in NEP to develop the skills. Because if you see, children are coming out with higher marks in our boards, in the local boards, but they're very less employable. Even in the global market, we have seen children are not getting enough employment opportunities. Why is this so? Every second day, we are coming across children who are getting 92, 93, 95, 96%, which has become a very common phase these days. Even I was surprised to see this time, children are getting 100 out of 100, even in subjects like history. I mean, how do you get that? And how do we rate talent accordingly? So you can see on one side, we are having English medium students doing this. And on the other side, if we put the focus on English language itself, we see we have children belonging from different state boards, including Hindi medium and other local boards. They are lagging behind in terms of skills, in terms of English language as well. So the rate of unemployment is going higher over there. I have come across so many people who comes and speaks, ma'am, I have degree, but I can't speak English. Teach me English, because I'm not able to pass the interview because of this. I'm not able to get the job. And don't think that they are not talented. They are equally talented like any other English medium students. So, you know, like I feel that's where the role of multilingualism creeps in. If our students are learning through medium of home language or regional language, there's no harm in that. As long as it is comprehensible, as long as it is easier for children to grasp the concept in their mother tongue. Okay. Secondly, as a country, we can never do away with the language English. Not only as a country, even in this whole world, nobody can do away with the language English, because even if you see, the Chinese have started learning English these days, the Japanese are learning English these days. Nobody can do away with it, because it has become the most common global language to be used for communication. So if any school thinks that out of these 3 languages, I'm planning to do away English or I'm planning to neglect English, I think that's never feasible. So, and thirdly, what I found in last few days about NEP, I would like to say there were a lot of confusion, there were a lot of fear, like Sanskrit being introduced. Now, if we see the policy, I don't know like how many of you have really gone through it. Okay, if you allow me, I would share some of the benefits of it surely in the PPT that I have made. Nowhere it is mentioned that Sanskrit will be compulsory. It has given the teachers, the schools, the states, greater amount of flexibility to choose any three languages of their choice. So it's never said that, this language has to be mandatory. It's only the focus on three language, any three language, and the children have to learn it with equal competence. That is where it is coming in. I felt, keeping beside all the controversies and the politics aside, I found that our education system needed this big change. Because what has been going on over the years and years, that kept us really lagging behind. We were really lagging behind in terms of global education. And, landing into IB has really opened my eyes in terms of that. I could really differentiate. That's where I found that when this NEP came aside, I being a teacher, both as an educator and both as an English educator, I never felt threatened, to be very honest. I never felt that somebody is going to sideline me just because English has been introduced, not given the privilege of first language. I know English is very much needed. My role as an English educator will always be required, no matter what. Secondly, it gave me immense joy as an educator to see that, something worthwhile children are going to learn in future. If it is implemented properly, once again, I'm very clear about it. If it is implemented properly, whether it is at urban, whether it is at rural scale, it is going to really benefit the children. Because, we as a country, India, are divided into two groups. Urban and rural. So one side is developing and the other side is highly underdeveloped. That's why if we see during this pandemic, online education has benefited one section of people. But what about the other section? I saw the other day, one educator from Bihar is selling vegetables because his schools cannot afford to provide online education. And the teachers are not equipped to provide online education. Today we are sitting over here, we are talking, having webinars, seminars, giving online sessions through laptop because digitally we are very much advanced. But other side of India is still lagging behind. So if the government has made an effort to bring everything at par, I think we should genuinely appreciate that and be optimistic about it.
Absolutely, Sumera. I completely agree that I think all the educators are absolutely appreciating the fact that the government has taken, first of all, the initiative to bring what a private board school, like an IGCSE school, where we were doing checkpoint in grade 5, then grade 8, they have thoroughly understood the need of the hour. And they want to bring that same niche of curriculum to the government students, to the public sector, to the schools. So the idea is that, yes, they've understood and they have implemented, right? Now will be the stage where we all come into the picture, where the implementation happens through us, right? There comes a very important factor that I wanted to mention. We've been talking about English, but what about teacher training and what about employability for the teachers? I had something interesting that Sunitha ma'am had prepared. I would like all of us to look at it, because looking at 2020 and moving forward, how are teachers going to be scrutinized or looked at in the system? Because point A, we have established, yes, it's a student-centric system. In theory, it looks absolutely wonderful. I just hope that in practice, we are able to implement it in the best possible way. But then the second aspect of the student is the teacher now. So what about the teacher's employability and her quality control? So Sunitha ma'am, let's just have a look at the teacher examination slide so we can guide our people here about it. Sunitha ma'am, are you there? Yeah. Just unmute yourself, ma'am.
So here I was talking about language. There is a greater flexibility in the 3-language formula, and no language will be imposed on any state. The 3 languages learned by the children will be the choice of states, regions, and of course of the students themselves. As all the panelists said, there is no compulsion that Sanskrit has to be included. It is a choice given to the schools and the students. They can opt according to their wish. And if the child wants to change the language, they can do it so in the grade of 6th and 7th. So moving to the next slide, I think I have completed this. Mother tongue and home language. There is a difference between mother tongue and home language. Mother tongue is a language which is spoken at home. Home language is a language which is spoken in the community, in the city, or in the place where the child is living. So the teacher is expected to know home language, not the mother tongue. This is the greatest confusion where social media had come. So the teacher who is teaching science is expected to know English, along with that, the home language of that particular state. So moving to the how language will be taught, much has been told about this. Still, I would like to make few points. All the languages will be taught in an enjoyable, interactive manner. Plenty of interactive conversation and early reading and subsequent writing in the mother tongue in the early years, and with the skills developed for reading, writing in other languages in grade 3 and beyond. That doesn't mean that English will be done that way. It will have its own importance. So these are some of the innovative methods which will be used by the teachers, and teachers will be using a bilingual approach to teach other subjects, whether it is social science or science, any other subject. So these are some of the points which is common to all. Since there is a lack of time, I will not be sharing. If you want, you can take screenshot.
The question was, I think so, how will the teachers be trained?
Yeah, I'm coming to that aspects, ma'am. Other aspects. Now, what is in for teachers? So the education policy is talking about reverence for the profession, which was degraded in these years. Nobody wanted to come to teaching profession as with regard to salary or with regard to the respect what is available in other profession. So it will be revived. This is one of the main benefit that teachers will be getting. They will get their reverence once again. And this education policy will attract new talents. The people who have natural aptitude for teaching, they will be coming in as the pay benefits and other benefits will be changing. And coming to the Anganwadi teachers, they if they don't have the qualification, they will be upgraded, as I told in the beginning. There will be integrated B.Ed program in 0.5 and 5.1. The document is talking about teachers. In 5.2, it is talking about recruitment. The recruitment and deployment and survey conditions will be improved. Teachers will be empowered and they will be trained properly to the requirement. If it is kindergarten, whatever the required parameters are there, that in that manner they will be trained. And as far as recruitment is concerned, merit-based scholarship will be announced. 4 years integrated B.Ed will be introduced, and the teachers who have completed their graduation, for them, teachers who have completed graduation, for them, it is only 2 years B.Ed, and it is 4 years integrated program if otherwise, and 1 year B.Ed for the teachers who have completed 4-year degree with research and those who have done post-graduation. So we have 4-year integrated degree B.Ed program, 2-year B.Ed program, and 1-year B.Ed program, apart from certification of 6 months and 1 year. Diploma of 1 year and certification program of 6 years. The conditions of the teachers will be improved. As far as incentives is concerned, those who are not willing to go for rural sector, to attract the teachers to the rural sector, special incentives will be given, HRA will be given, and provision of house will also be given. Teacher eligibility test will be strengthened with content and pedagogy. All the 4 stages, these parameters will be applicable. TET and NTA is applicable. And apart from this, class demo will be taken. The recruitment will not be as easy as it was. And proficiency in local language will also be tested, and adequate number of teachers, if it is not available, exchange program will be conducted through the school complex. And master instructors will be there in the school complex, where they will be going and training where the training facility is not available. The technology will be used for recruitment and deployment of the teachers. A lot of autonomy will be given to the teachers to use the curriculum in their most effective manner. Conducive atmosphere will be provided to the teachers, whether it is providing water facilities or restroom facilities. In some of the government schools, all these facilities are not available, and these will be taken care. Sharing of school complexes and knowledge will be much more enhanced. And CDP, that is teachers professional development, continuous professional development will be improved. And by 2030, the qualification for entering this teaching profession will be 4 years integrated degree program, as I said, or else 2-year B.Ed who have completed degree, 1-year B.Ed for the teachers who have completed 4-year degree along with research, and for the postgraduate applicants. By 2021, new teacher education policy will be framed along with NCFTE 2021. NCTE is National Curriculum for Teacher Training. Along with NCERT, they will sit across and form the formulation. And every 5 to 10 years, the revision will be made of this curriculum, B.Ed curriculum. Stringent action will be taken regarding substandard B.Ed teacher training colleges. Guiding set of national professional standard for teachers, that is NPST, will be formed, and it will be formed by 2022. National Council for Teacher Education will be formed, and along with PSSB, that is Professional Standard Setting Body, they will regulate all the instructions to be given for this education training colleges. So one more slide is there, which I feel like it is very important. What is there for government teachers? Now, when I look at this education policy, it is mostly focusing on the government schools and the government teachers. We are talking about language formula. English is not frequently is used in state board schools or in rural sector. So for them, language formula is applicable. And midday meals, we don't use this terminology in CBSE, ICSE or IGCSE or IB. It is for definitely government schools, where the teachers were involved in most of the time making midday meals, and the teaching was not happening. So they will be freed from these activities. And next, talking about the transfer, there won't be frequent transfer of the teachers as it used to happen now, according to the officials or with the desire of the teachers. By paying some amount, those things used to happen, and that will be curtailed or it will be stopped. The dropout rate was very high, and that will be taken into rinse. Universal compulsory education was there. It was there up to 14 years. Now it will be extended to 18 years. Universally compulsory education will be now till 18 years. Teachers deployment in other activities. Teachers will not be into other activities, whether it is sciences or it is regarding elections or any other activities. They will not be deployed. Even for this corona pandemic, the teachers were deployed such activities will not happen in future. So these are the benefits I'm seeing for the government teachers. As far as the appointment is concerned, I have told you the recruitment process will be very strict. It is not going to be easy with our influential personalities. It is not going to happen if it is really implemented in the manner it has been framed. Even the transfer, same rule applicable. As far as the promotion is concerned, it is not according to the number of years the teacher has served or the HM has served. It is based on the quality of service they have provided. A lot of assessments will happen, and based on that, promotion will be provided. Incentives, as I told you, if the teachers are going to the rural sector, a lot of incentives are waiting for them. So I have taken all this information from NEP MHRD, that is Ministry of Education, Government of Karnataka. Now I would like to stop sharing the slide. If any questions regarding this, I'm willing to take.
Thank you so much, ma'am. You made a very important line there. I picked it up. It kind of got stuck in my head. It is very well done, the NEP, if implemented as written, right? I have one question for the teaching community who has joined us today. Do you think that because of the NEP's inclusion, would you now be in a position as an IB teacher, Sumaira, would you now feel motivated enough to probably earn a living as a government teacher? And on the other hand, would a government teacher be in the same quality level to apply to a private IB school and pick up 1.5 lakh salary? When we are talking about the divide in the education industry in India, there's a massive divide between teachers also. The kind of teachers who are teaching government schools, the kind of teachers who are teaching CBSE, the kind of teachers who are teaching IB, the kind of teachers who are teaching IGCSE. There is a cultural divide, there's a communication divide, there's a thinking divide, and also from the stakeholders, from the management, there is a massive divide. So if I was a government teacher for the last 14 years, I go to an top IB school in Bombay, say, you know what, I want the job because I have 14 years of experience in a government school in Bihar. Will I get the job? No. So if you're looking to implement such a policy and you want it to be successful, you want it to be incentive, there should be incentives for people to join the teaching profession, then would you be able to create a balance between the private sector where the salaries are at a certain bandwidth with the public sector, which is obviously trying to catch up? So the pedagogy introduced by the government saying, yes, we will support the kind of innovative methods that international boards are using. Would you also support the teachers in terms of cross transfer between private or public sector? That's one factor. When we talk about the communication and the psychological difference between students, it is even bigger in teachers. So how teachers look at themselves. I mean, if it's a government teacher who looks at, I'll give you my example, a young principal of 32 years old, if I was going to walk into a rural village in Punjab, people would laugh at me and be like, what are you talking about? Principal is supposed to be 80 and about to be dying. In India, principal is supposed to be a guy who's absolutely sunky. A principal is supposed to be this guy. So it's still there. The stereotype is so strong in the government school sector. So if a guy like me would say, no, I'm a principal, nobody will believe me, and I am being honest. So, and in the same way, if a government teacher tomorrow says, I'm going to walk out and go to a metro city and I will get employability at the same salary, will that happen? So that's another thing which I think we need to think about. Josie, we have not let you have the time, right. And we've been rambling. I wanted to ask you one question. One is that, you've been listening to us, you've been seeing the questions. I know this is a completely new perspective. I mean, trust me, this is history in the making, because these are the kind of talks that lead to solutions, right? Yeah. I wanted to ask you what's your perception about what we are talking? And second, I wanted to give you some space because I also wanted to give some, you had a wonderful practical presentation. I remember that you wanted to show the teachers about how you've been practicing your teaching. And I would really love the teachers to get to see that. So probably we can do that now, if you're okay with it.
That's fine. First of all, even looking at what Sunita, if I'm pronouncing the name properly, sorry if I'm not, was showing, there's a lot of exciting changes happening, which put the student at the heart of the system more than anything else. And she was talking and showing us things like based on experiential learning, discovery education, play-based learning, which is all really, really positive to hear. And for that reason, I wanted to talk a little bit about the students themselves, the 21st century learner. If I'm able to share the screen, Karan, please.
Yeah.
The 21st century learner is a buzzword that came in use over the last few years, and we use it freely, but what does it really mean to be a 21st century learner? Well, first of all, it means that we are global citizens, no longer citizens of our region or of our country, but citizens of the world. And that has huge implications on the education system or on the education we get. It also means that we have instant information, which is readily available at any time, which again has huge implications on our education. It means that these are learners who are media driven, who will have multiple careers throughout their lives, and who will have jobs that do not even exist today. Now, that in itself is a big feat, because if we don't know what they are doing in the future, how do we know what to train them for today? How do we know what we should prepare them for? And so I'd like to give the panelists and participants and attendees the opportunity to take this into consideration and just quickly tell us through the chat what skills they think are required of these kids today so that they can survive tomorrow's world. And then, Karan, if you can just tell me what they're saying from the chats.
Right. So this is kind of like an open poll to all the participants and the panelists. The question is that what skills do we need today for the kids to have, survival and sustainability in the future? So straight away, we have one interesting point that has come: critical thinking.
That's right.
We got open-mindedness, take the best from every culture and leave the bad. Collaboration, communication, creativity. Again, collaboration, critical thinking, confidence, analytical skills.
Absolutely.
Skills.
Emotional intelligence, excellent, yes. Acceptance, excellent. Experiential learning. This is interesting. Anti-fragility, empathy, mind map training, adjustment, and of course, creativity is there again. A lot of wonderful points have come up, Josie. These are all so valid. Team building, absolutely true. That one too.
Yeah. So as you can see, these kids have a lot to deal with. There's a lot of not just language barriers they have to overcome, but there's also a lot of skills that they need to get their heads around. As everybody was saying, in order to survive tomorrow's world, they do need a lot of skills. One of the most important skills they need to have is being autonomous learners. Why? Because if they're going to be doing or having so many different careers in their life, so many different parts they need to take, they can't possibly keep putting their life on hold to go back to learning. So being autonomous learners is going to be an important factor. In order to be autonomous in their learning, they need to have good research skills. They need to have good critical thinking skills. Together with all the empathy and everything else were being mentioned earlier, and considering that they live in a global world, they need also good interpersonal skills. So team building was mentioned earlier also, because we already live in a world where we cannot possibly work alone. These kids' worlds tomorrow will be even more so. So they're also going to need communication skills. Now, how do we develop all this in a way that engages our learner today when this is their world. And this, as you can see, is a representation of the world map with all the different medias that are used in different regions. So if you look for your regions, you'll be able to see which medias are used in a particular country. Some are specific to, a particular country. Some are global, like Blogger, Facebook, YouTube, Pinterest, Twitter, and so on. And the usage of these social media sites is increasing, and it's estimated as an 11% increase in usage year by year. But what makes them go to these sites, and why do they love these sites so much? Well, they allow them to learn in a way in which they can engage. They allow them to interact, not just with their peers, not just with people from their own country, but with people from across the globe. These kids are multicultural kids. And it also allows them to share their thoughts creatively in any way they would like to create, and gives them instant gratification. Now, again, that's a lot to beat in the classroom. And I mean, I can already hear some people almost think aloud saying, but being on screen online too much and too much screen time is also bad. And I would say, yeah, definitely, you need to have a balance. But is there a solution? For sure there is. And I think if, as educators, as parents, we use technology as a medium to create screenless activities which simulate those happening online, we can then engage our learners and have their attention a lot more. Now, how do we do all this? There's various ways and means. I will try to keep it short because I know we're running out of time. But if you have a look at this here, it's just a simple grid with the letters of the alphabet. There's representations on the upper axis and the lower ones, and there's 3 words written at the very top. Each word is separated by a slash. There's a set of letters in each word. The first one is MO. And if we look at MO on this grid, we will find that MO is W. Then there is TE. And if we look at TE, we will find it is H. There is PA, which we will see is A. And there is TO, which we realize is T. Now, if we put WHAT, that represents a word, what. And so there are 2 other words coded in this way. And I'd like to give you a minute to decode this, and then give me your answer in the chat, or answer the question in the chat.
Right, so I hope all the participants understood the question, and we are expecting your answers coming into the chat panel, right? So it's like all the people who love coding now are getting language and coding. So let's decode this and put it in the chat. Josie, do you want to repeat the instructions once? Because probably people, yes.
What you need to do is look at each of the words. We said the first word was what. If we look at the second word between the slashes, there are representations with sets of letters. The first one is GE. And if we look at GE, it gives us the letter I. The second letter to go with that word is PO, which gives us another word. So this word would be, and that's what I would like you to write in the chat, what the other 2 words are after decoding.
I hope everyone understood. We were on the same page, right? So let's crack this. there are some answers coming in like MA with an E. Is that something that would be there, Josie?
Say again.
There's
basically asking a question.
Oh, so yeah, okay.
Okay.
Right.
So if
is
I
that
don't know if anyone
we can answer what is education? Is that
the question says what is education? And so if you could just tell us in the chat what everybody's, understanding of education is.
Oh yeah, perfect. So
I'd love to hear the views.
Okay, so we have what is education? That's come in.
Mm-hmm.
Another person who's interpreted it in the same way, what is education with the question mark, has come in. That's interesting. So people are thinking alike on the interpretation here.
Okay. And apart from telling us what the question is, if they can give us what, their views of education is, what education means to them in the chat. And then perhaps you can tell me what they're saying.
Okay, so yeah, so the next question is what education means to you. Can you write that down, all the participants? What education means to you from this? Right, so we have one answer which is quite interesting. Education is an endeavor to encourage. Education is empowerment and enlightenment. Change in behavior for the better. Okay, so the first ones, yeah, they've got the E in a very interesting way. That was very nice. Okay, then we have education is the only way to build a better future. Cultivation of intellect and formation of character. There are a lot of interesting answers. Empowering knowledge. Okay, so yeah, people have taken a lot of liking to this.
Yeah. Education is a very widespread topic, which we'll definitely not be able to do and discuss in detail in the next 10 minutes. But yeah, as somebody said, education is knowledge. It is the acquisition of knowledge, but not only. It's also the acquisition of skills, because if I have knowledge, but for example, I don't know how to solve a problem, I don't know how to resolve a conflict, and that knowledge is not going to serve me very well. So the skills we learn as an important part of our education, it is developing the power of reasoning. It is obtaining the ability to make the right judgment. It basically is what prepares us for adult life. And in order to be prepared for adult life in a way which we would like to, we first need to be engaged. We need to enjoy what we are seeing in front of us. And so going back to my coding activity here, I could easily have just asked the question, what is education to you? But in asking that question, mostly I would get blank faces while they're thinking. And in this way, as you were deciphering that question, you're bringing all the knowledge you have to the forefront of your brain because you're engaged with the activity. And it would be the same for kids in class. And of course, you don't have to ask them that question. It could be a simple message that you want them to decode. It could be a controversial statement that you want them to think about. There's a lot that can be done with a simple coding activity, but we can take it a step further. And if you could just give me a minute to show you. Okay, you just could have a look at this activity. This is a simple coding activity to save time, and because I just wanted to give you the feeling of it rather than the details of it. I'm sure you can recognize a lot of these places, and we're going to a specific place here. And in order to find out where we're going, you will need to decipher the code here. So we've got this first character, which means one step to the right. This means one step down. Here we've got a loop. So that means double this action in the middle. So I'll give you a minute to find out where we're going, not by drawing the direction. I can see here somebody's been drawing the direction, not by drawing direction, but by following the code here.
This is quite fascinating, Josie. I'm really enjoying this.
Thank you. So any ideas where we're going?
In a real world, I would really love to go to Taj Mahal right now. but
not possible.
Yeah. Anyone? Okay, so I have one arrow which is showing on the right somewhere, and there's one going down. Okay, then one goes on the right there. There you go.
We're going from start to the right here, yeah? And then from here we're going down, and then we've got a double action here, so we're going to the Taj Mahal because that's 2 spaces there. Right. But yeah, I could, tell my learners, so today I'd like to take you to Taj Mahal, put up a picture. What do you know about it? And again, they'll all look at me blankly. But if I send them, on a kind of quest to find where they're going to be engaged more. And then, of course, I need to set an engaging task to go with it. So rather than telling them, this is where I'm taking you, and these are the things I'd like you to learn about this place. Now, think of 5 things you'd like to learn about this place. Think about who you could ask for this information. Think about how you could get them to give you this information. Think about how you should be asking these questions to get this information, because if I ask a question to one of my siblings or to my best friend or to even my mom and dad, even, is going to be a different question to how I need to ask it if I ask it to my neighbor or somebody, an acquaintance of the family who I know has visited the place. And then, of course, they need to be ready to share that information with whoever, their educators set them for the task of sharing it. It's an activity that you can easily create through an online document that you can easily print and share with them. And it develops, first of all, it makes them independent learners. It develops autonomy because they're deciding what they want to find out. And it's developing also their interpersonal and communication skills. And of course, they've got to be of a certain age to do this. However, there's other things we can also do in order. Okay, Karan, I don't know if you can, as an administrator, remove the arrows and things others have been putting on screen. I can't seem to be able to do it from myself. It doesn't matter if you can't.
Yeah, I will just try and get it removed. Just a second. Yeah, we can do that.
Don't worry about it if you can't.
Right.
So for younger, I'll still go on with my talk so that we save time. For younger learners, well, this here is my dog Floppy. And he's got a very bad habit of running away. But this time he went a little bit too far and realized that in trying to make his way back home, which is down here, he came across a lot of obstacles. So my task to my learners would be, help Floppy find a safe route back, the safest route back. And of course, they would need to print this together with, just give me a minute. Together with a few arrows that they would need to place on the mat to help experiment with which route to take to best take, and they would then have to justify, tell me why they chose that route. If they're a little bit older, I can give them some coding cards and they can code the route and then explain to somebody else through that coding. It's an activity that can be done at home with peers, with the siblings, in class with peers, an activity that can be sent online if perhaps parents are willing to print and set up some cards for them. But things don't even need to be that complex because we can use other simple tools such as this one. Yeah, and I mean, we all engage our learners, our kids through stories ever since they're very little. So stories are an important aspect of the classroom. And you can engage kids with stories through story parts or emotion parts. And so all you would need to do, either through a document, I enjoy using Google Drawing because it's very simple to use, and I can use the online format as well if it suits the learners. But all I would need is a background related to the story I'm saying, a few characters, which I would print and cut out for them. And as I'm reading the story, the learners are creating a story part with the characters as they hear the story, which then they can use to retell the story. Yeah, and it works on the recall skills, which is an important skill to develop. I could have simple emojis like a happy face, an angry face, an upset face. And as somebody is saying the story to them, it could be the parent, it could be the teacher, it could be through some kind of audio device, they create an emotions part, which then needs to be discussed with the parent or whoever is delivering that story idea. Last but not least, there's always also, I'm sorry for all the scribbling, somebody must be with the mouse going on. I can't remove it.
We have a naughty child amongst us, Josie.
Yes, it's all right.
One here.
That's okay, somebody managed to remove it now. But even traditional games can work wonders. So games like this board game here, where the idea is to start here, finish there, and in trying to get to the finishing line, if they throw a dice and it's 2, and they come in over here, they have to actually say what that is in order for them to be able to move forward. Again, played alone, played with peers, with parents, with siblings. They could have hours of fun recycling vocabulary that has previously been learned, or it could be something a little bit more complex, such as this board game here, which is basically following the same concept, but this time it's an empty board game, simply because it goes with a set of cards which are editable. And so parents or educators can put general knowledge questions there. So to enable the students to play the game, you could put questions there related to a subject, to a topic that you want them to review, or even better, you could allow them to set their own questions. And of course, they will need to be printed. And again, they could have hours of fun following traditional games, which can all be created professionally through this site. There's loads of tools online that enables us to create different material. And, from word searches to dice makers to board games, crosswords and bingo cards, whatever you want to create, you can create lessons through the site, which is free for everyone. You can use time and time again. You don't even need to register. And again, all you would need to do is print the activity to set the tasks that you want them to do. So whether it's a story activity through the dice maker, whether it's recycling vocabulary, whether it's story prompts, it's there for our use. And so if we can make use of these tools that technology provides us with to create screenless activities for them to do, I think it would create a nice balance.
Absolutely, Josie. I mean, you just struck the chord that I actually wanted to talk to all the participants about, because this is exactly what at Miles Academy we have been developing. And see, the idea for us is that we had two ideas. One is technology is not the center stage when it comes to language learning. Technology, the teacher is the center stage, and technology is something that adds to the value of the teacher. That's point number one, which we have developed. Second was that if a child is already spending so much of time with physics, chemistry, English, all the other core subjects online, when it comes to language, we want to pull them off the screen. So the kind of system that we have made is a system which involves minimum amount of screen time in learning language. it actually involves all of these activities. So this was precisely our wish and our idea, that at MyElsa, any student or teacher who's involved is actually not sitting in front of the screen. These are exactly the kind of tools that would take them away from the screen, give them the creativity, and make them independent learners. So I think I completely resonate with you there, because as a company, this is exactly what we have developed. And this is the kind of learning that I think in the future, which will be the new normal. Because initially when we talked about blended learning, it was like, there will be a day we'll go back to school and we'll have some online part. Now the new blended learning is, how much of screen time and off screen time can I offer as a company? So the success would be in actually creating solutions which do not involve screen time. So that is actually the new normal, So absolutely makes sense what you're saying. I mean, and I'm absolutely thrilled that so many of the participants have still been with us. It's been more than 2 hours. And I know we've taken a lot of time and there's been a lot of amazing questions. One thing I want to tell all the participants, that when it comes to the NEP, this was just the first session. What we're planning to develop is, there's going to be absolutely interactive work questionnaire that is going to come to you, where you can write down all the questions that you now have about the NEP policy that will come back to us. Then we are going to have some NEP experts coming in to answer your specific questions. So we are making a second session to this. The second session is primarily focused on a Q&A, where we are sort of brainstorming and creating solutions for your questions. So after the session, you will be getting a questionnaire where you can fill in the kind of questions you want to know about the new education policy, which will be answered by our experts in a live session. So first of all, thank you all the panelists for being with us for the last 2 hours. It's been wonderful learning from all of you. It's been a wonderful session. And thank you all the participants again for being patient, for posting your questions. And also any question that has not been answered will be picked up by our team, and we will be making sure that these questions are answered live. So I hope to see all of you in the next segment of the NEP discussion. If you have questions about how we are creating solutions for offline English learning through MyElsa, you can always reach to me or reach to my team members and understand how we are working with creating solutions for English. But again, thank you so much, guys. And I'm seeing a lot of positive response from most of the people here. It's great. Thank you so much.
Karan sir, I would just like to add a point. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
To all the participants, from being an educator myself about NEP that we were discussing about, I would just tell them to be positive, to be open-minded regarding this policy, and there is nothing to fear. Take it as a challenge with a growth mindset, so that we can come up with a better change in future. Because we as a teacher always build generations, and we can always make an impact on education in that way. So let's not, be skeptical about it or get into any kind of controversies regarding this. So let's be positive. Thank you.
That's a wonderful message, Sumera. That's absolutely wonderful. I think from an educator, showing optimism and belief in the system is the right way, right? And we all have the brains, the analytical brains to scrutinize. But yes, the point is to be positive, to look forward to it. And I'm sure that through the kind of educators that we are, I'm sure we will create solutions rather than problems, right? So excellent point there. Again, all the panelists, thank you so much. And all the participants, have a wonderful evening ahead. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Karan, can we have your phone number if you can put it in the chat box, or your email?
For all.
Yeah, we will be dropping, you can have I'll ask somebody to drop the number, the office number and the email ID. Of course, you can reach directly to me there, right? I'll just drop my email. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you, Karan sir, and whole.
Yeah, first of all, I would like to say that it was a really fantastic webinar. What I'm exactly looking forward is, do we need to fill up any feedback forms as such to get in our e-certificates?
You will be getting a feedback form along with the questionnaire. Should you want to take part in the next session, it will give you some sort of a platform where you can answer questions about NEP or any question that you have. You can post it to us. And based on the feedback form, yes, you will also be receiving the certification of participation from MyELSA.
Okay, thank you so much.
If you don't mind, could you just post on the other session link in the chat box so that we can register for the same?
Definitely, we will be sending you on. We have all the email IDs of all the participants. The link for the session and all the details will come to you directly, either on your phone or on your email or on both of them.
That is the best idea, sir. That is the best idea.
I have dropped my email ID.
Very wonderful and
If you want to
informative.
reach me directly, you can reach to me on my email address. I've dropped it here. Either way, you can connect with me on LinkedIn also, or you can write to me directly. Thank you so much again, participants. I'll be signing off. I look forward to seeing you again. And should you want to know more about what we are doing at MyELSA, please feel free to connect with me anytime. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.